probably at least a few, in my opinion. At least a few people have to know.
Crochet,
Ronnie
nature
Lawson
lover,
was
hair
asked
curlers and
at a press conference just 2 days after Summer was reported missing on June 17th,
Is it Michelle or
2021.
Michael? I want to say
Anyone in the
Michelle,
family is a person of interest,
but I don't know for sure.
and he
Priestman,
says
I'm
everyone
so sorry
is a
if I
person
said
of
it wrong.
interest
I want to say it's
until we
Michelle,
find
but I don't
Summer.
know for sure. Good morning,
So
everybody.
they haven't found Summer yet, and they haven't said anything else.
So this stream is
otherwise
for Summer Wells. It's not for the suspects and her
So I could either take that as Summer's entire family as a suspect until she is found, or literally just
this is
everyone
pre-recorded for
is a
background
suspect.
noise.
Either way, that includes Dawn, Candace, and Grandma.
Let me get my banner up here.
Summer was reported missing June 15th, 2021, just before 6:30 p.m.
I hope you guys
Summer had only been missing for about 10 minutes at this point, according to Dawn and Candace.
Out there today here.
We know Summer's father called to report Summer missing, and it's been stated
if you guys
that
haven't
a family member called by TBI, and also it's been stated by Ronnie Lawson that Summer's parents called. So did they both call, like Dawn and Candace says they did, or was it just Dawn? Or was it Dawn and somebody else? We can't know for sure unless Ellie tells us. The 911 calls haven't been released for a reason. We know Dawn called in and advised that Candace had went for a walk, but when she came back, Summer was missing. Where did Candace go? Maybe over to the camper like she said? Maybe she didn't walk anywhere. Maybe she was inside Grandma's camper or in the house the whole time. Maybe Candace left the property altogether and was somewhere else entirely. Candace seems to have blacked out for a couple hours after walking into Grandma's camper because she walks back out and thinks it was only 2 minutes. If we're to take Candace's word for it, that she was really only
Hey, I don't know what was going on with that. I am so sorry. It was playing a pre-recorded video that I had made, and I have no idea what it was coming from. I didn't have anything open, so I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to restart. Okay.
She wasn't there when things got bad. I never ever saw the northern lights. Never really heard a cluster of flies. Never ever saw the stars so bright. And in the farmhouse it would be alright, 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 alright. Woke this morning to the steaming lash. Every Every man rise from the ash. Each betrayal begins with trust. Every man returns to dust. Don't ever saw the northern lights. Never really heard a cluster of flies. Never ever saw a star so bright. Could have promised to be alright, alright.
Thank you guys for hanging in there with me. Sorry about that again.
Hello. Okay. Summer Moon Wells is still missing. Summer is 7 years old. She was only 5 when she went missing. June 15th, 2021, over 2 years ago now. She has blonde hair, which was shaved at the time of her disappearance, shaved completely down to the skin with razor closeness within about a month of her disappearance, and it was grown out to a little bit shorter than a pixie cut by the time she was reported missing. It wasn't cut that short, it was shaved down to the skin, for anybody that doesn't already know that. TBI doesn't want any tips being called in because of a rumor or speculation based on or heard from social media. They want real, credible tips that can help them in locating Summer. Ronnie Lawson was asked at a press conference just 2 days after Summer was reported missing on June 17th, 2021, if anyone in the family is a person of interest. And he says everyone is a person of interest until we find Summer. So they haven't found Summer yet, and they haven't said anything else otherwise. So I could either take that as Summer's entire family is a suspect until she is found, or literally just everyone is a suspect. Either way, that includes Dawn, Candace, and Grandma. Summer was reported missing June 15th, 2021, just before 6:30 p.m. Summer had only been missing for about 10 minutes at this point, according to Dawn and Candace. We know Summer's father called to report Summer missing, and it's been stated that a family member called by TBI, and also it's been stated by Ronnie Lawson that Summer's parents called. So did they both call like Dawn and Candace says they did, or was it just Dawn? Or was it Dawn and somebody else? We can't know for sure unless Ellie tells us. The 911 calls haven't been released for a reason. We know Dawn called in and advised that Candace had went for a walk, but when she came back, Summer was missing. Where did Candace go? Maybe over to the camper like she said. Maybe she didn't walk anywhere. Maybe she was inside Grandma's camper or in the house the whole time. Maybe Candace left the property altogether and was somewhere else entirely. Candace seems to have blacked out for a couple hours after walking into Grandma's camper because she walks back out and thinks it was only 2 minutes. If we're to take Candace's word for it, that she was really only gone for 2 to 5 minutes, I'm left in the same position Ronnie Lawson was in when he said publicly that Candace needs to work on her timeline because she has 3 hours missing. And I wish I could find that clip. I've searched and searched for it. I can't remember if he says 3 hours or a few hours or something else, but I'm pretty sure he says 3 hours. He says something along the line of, ask Candace where the missing time is because she has 3 hours missing from her timeline, or something like that. I really need that clip. Someone back me up on that, because I know that clip exists and I know I'm not the only one that saw it. That's one reason I'm so heavily suspicious of Candace knowing exactly what happened to Summer, because why else would she leave out all of this time after 3 p.m.? And why would she go with a story that doesn't match with what law enforcement says? I know Candace has turned news stations down. There were news stations trying to interview Candace and she wouldn't talk to them. Whereas Don has reached out and talked to them when they approached him. Candace doesn't. Don started talking 3 days in, maybe before that even, that I just don't realize. I'm pretty sure I know the first news appearance was 3 days in. It was on June 18th. That's when he says Summer went down to the basement, which was unlocked, and we haven't seen her since. That's also the same interview Don says they beat their brains out looking for Summer. Oh, and major trigger warning on this stream, and also language warning. Definitely not meant for children. If you have little ears, just put some earbuds in. So why would Candace turn news stations down, though? Especially in the beginning. Like, I mean, at any point in time, like, I don't feel like it could, 20 years could go by, and I would still kind of side-eye her if she was turning news stations down in 20 years from now. Like, are you ever gonna speak up for her? If her and Don really thought someone just kidnapped Summer, yes, everyone handles trauma different. Tragedy, grief, different. And maybe it is trauma and tragedy keeping Candace from having the courage and strength to talk to the newscasters, but that doesn't mean that it's because Summer went missing and she has no idea what happened. The trauma and tragedy could still make Candace guilty. Just because she might be grieving and went through trauma and tragedy doesn't mean she's innocent. I know that sounds harsh to some people, but I'm not being hateful. I'm not being insensitive. I'm thinking of Summer, and that's what everyone needs to be focused on. Summer's feelings, not Don and Candace's, because with all due respect, I haven't seen either one of them intermingle with Summer's community online in a way that benefits Summer at all, or law enforcement's investigation. I've only heard misinformation from them. I've watched people comment about tips they've called in to TBI due to things that Don and Candace has said that weren't true. Neither one of them are worried about people calling in tips that are not credible. We're only worried about they are only worried about it. The rumors and speculation, because it's making them look bad. They aren't worried about the rumors and speculation leading to hundreds of false tips being called in and slowing down the investigation. They worry about rumors and speculation because it makes them look bad. They aren't worried about being coherent so they can do whatever they need to do to help find Summer and get their boys back and get back on the ball and pull it together and do what they need to do. That's not what they're trying to do in their life. The so-called dream they had of getting their boys back was never real, in my opinion. They never cared, because if they did, they would have sobered up and followed the rules and just did what they had to do. And you'd think after Summer going missing, that would be enough of a wake-up call for them to do that for their boys that they still have, that Candace says are still here and still living. But they wouldn't do that. So what makes anybody think they even cared? You know? Maybe I don't know, maybe they thought they did care in their own way. But whether they realize it or not, they appear to only care about themselves, how they feel, and what's currently happening to them in their lives. They don't care about how anybody else feels unless it's benefiting them in some way. In my opinion, that's what it seems like. Otherwise, it doesn't interest them, and they don't want anything to do with it, in my opinion. That's what it seems like. People think it's so wrong to hate on the parents of a missing child, but I think they have it a little bit twisted in this case. And I'm not hating, I'm pointing out the things that are obvious red flags to me and stating facts, things law enforcement has said themselves, and also pointing out things Don and Candace have said and done themselves that have been wrong. And just bringing to everyone's attention for a moment that after over 2 years of Summer being missing, Don, Candace, and Grandma are still suspects, whether they're her family or not. They have been since at least day 2, and I'm not happy to say it. Wouldn't you want to beg for help finding Summer if you really actually thought she was abducted? If you were in fact that sure that Summer was abducted? Why? Why doesn't Candace want to talk about what happened? What is she afraid of? So if Candace is just afraid of going to jail, and maybe a little bit afraid of Don, or maybe even some other people too, who and what is it? And how is that more important than just telling the truth so that Summer can be found? If you really think she was abducted, but you're leaving time out of the timeline, and you really didn't do anything wrong, you're just leaving time out because it's going to make you look bad in some way. Is that really more important to you than finding Summer? What if the information you're withholding could find her, but you're not going to say? Not to us, at least, right? But you say you've already told law enforcement. Well, then why did Ronnie Lawson say that they didn't know? Why did he say there was time missing? That means they don't know what was happening in that time because you didn't tell them. All right, and then the dispatch call was really kind of like, you could say it's very telling. All right. This is from Red Rum Media. She uploaded this 1 year ago, August 20th, 2021. How is that 1 year ago? That's like 2 years ago. But anyways, I thought that looked funny. So 2 years ago, it says 1 year, but it was 2 years ago. Summerwell's update, unreleased dispatch audio from 911 call June 15th, 2021, Hawkins County. It says it's a fundraiser still, and that they've raised $4,003 for missing and exploited children. 100% of the proceeds go to the charity, and you can donate right there. That's cool. So yeah, Red Rum Media. 15 seconds here, but her intro's pretty cool though.
Route from 110, 110 Ben Hill Road off of Beach Creek should be the first residence on your right. Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now. Yeah, for what was it a miracle?
All right, so they say that Summer's been gone and that they've been yelling for her. Well, he said she's been yelling for her. Candace has been yelling for Summer for about 10 minutes now. So she says what she did was she ran up from out of the basement or whatever, looking in the house, and went outside and was looking for Summer. She got Grandma's phone because that's the only one that calls AT&T, right? That's what she says. So she calls 911 from that phone after she calls Don, and Don tells her, hang up with me and call 911 right away. She says that's what she did. Where was the search outside of the very front of the yard? Like, did she even look to see if Summer might have fallen, like, over the edge of the yard? Or did she even, like, look down at the creek at all before she called 911 or anything? Before she, like, called Don freaking out? Because that makes me wonder if that's even true, which is really hard for me to believe because it does sound very scripted, and it has since the very first time I've ever heard it. And there's a lot of details that just don't make sense. And I'm going to talk about all of those in this. So let's continue listening to this because I forgot what I was saying.
And 110. 10-4 rounds, Madison. 335. I'll be in route as well. Go ahead. 35. Okay, guys. Probably going to make that several maybe. 10-4. 29 cents. So go ahead. So far. Rescue. Fire, please, for search.
They got search and rescue dogs, they got fire, police, they got everybody coming up there to help look for Summer. And they're all there around 7 o'clock, right? Probably. Most of them. We know a lot of them were still there for quite a while outside of the property, not letting anybody in, and it was quite some time before people were allowed to go up, like Robin and Dotson. And there was several agencies involved pretty quickly. There was 106 agencies involved after some time, probably more by now. I don't know what the number is right now currently, but I know at one point it was 106. But on June 15th, they still had a lot of personnel there that responded as quickly as they could and got there. And before they even came, Candace had neighbors helping her look from different directions. And it just makes me feel like if Summer would have wandered off, somebody had to have taken her. Whether it was planned or not, I mean, I have no idea. But somebody would have taken her out of there, especially if the footprints are legit, which they've never been confirmed or denied that I know of either. Allegedly, the guy that were on the property where one of the footprints was, he says, from what I've seen, and like I said, allegedly, because I have no idea if this is even really a person. Like, I've never really researched into it too much myself. I just know what I've seen. And he says law enforcement told him if he's going to talk about it, just to make sure he states exactly the facts. Because they don't want speculation and everything, misinformation out there. But I believe that was the one that was 0.4 miles away, and someone can correct me if they know I'm wrong on that.
You say when you got the original call that Mom went on a run and when she came back that daughter was gone? That's what the father advised. He's at work about an hour away, trying to make his way home. Careful.
So the father, at this point, Don was the one that had called in, and he said he was an hour away. So for whatever reason, he wants everybody else to think that he got home in 20 minutes. I mean, he gets that time like rolled down there, and it goes gradually. Like at first it's like 45 minutes or an hour. And then he got there in a half hour. And then at one point he says 20 minutes, So it just makes me wonder, why does he want everybody to think he got there so quick just because he wants to seem so much more desperate? But then why he told dispatch that he was an hour away? How are we supposed to believe that you drove somewhere that takes an hour to drive the normal speed limit, but you did it in 20 minutes? I don't believe it.
C12 Central. C12 will be in route. 906. 29 seconds. Notify 302. I had him on the phone, but boss him. You're on zero. Answer any questions he may have on it.
10-4. Do you want us to try to contact the canine?
Let 302 know, and I think he's going to let rescue make that determination.
Yeah.
29, go ahead.
302 has been notified. He also wanted me to just remind you to be sure to check the house and camper, even if they said they've already had.
Yeah, boss.
I'm going to come back to this, but pretty sure it sounds like she says she was going to notify 302, or they notified her, and she needed to let him know that to check the house and camper, even if they said they already have. It's just, think about that statement for a second. It sounds like they don't really trust him, right? All right, so if Summer is alive and desperately waiting to be rescued, like kidnapped, being held against her will by some bad person who was waiting in the woods and come up there and grabbed her, like Don says, and dragged her down the dog trail while they were covering her mouth, put her in a car and drove her far away. That's Don's narrative. Then how can you possibly have it in you to, first of all, send your sons out alone searching, then go and pull dead baby pranks like right after Summer went missing, talk about your own daughter being, trigger warning, sexually beat the F up in a hotel for crack without a single tear, mind you. And let's not forget the prank call to Mary, in which Candace was so inebriated that she didn't even sound like herself. But now I've heard her like that so many times that I guess it does sound like her. But she went on and on about Don getting arrested and taken away and getting beat up and the Mexican mafia and everything else, where Candace later laughed and she was like, yeah, we got that bitch. Talking about Mary. That's just one of Don's sexual assault victims from his past that he has traumatized multiple times already. And now Candace wants to join in on that? What? And this is Summer's parents. And people are coddling them, and we're supposed to really believe that they believe them? Do they not have a conscience? I just don't understand how Don and Candace can sleep at night knowing that their daughter could be out there having all these terrible things happen to her, like they say they think are happening to her, knowing the searches have stopped for now. Like they're not out there every day, like 24/7 actively searching. I mean, that's got to be gut-wrenching when that ends, right? Knowing there are hundreds of people in your own community praying for Summer to be found safely and worried sick about her, but still, with all of that, they still have it in them to pull pranks on people that are trying to help find Summer, wanting to do whatever they can to help find Summer. And on top of all that, they have the audacity to spread misinformation and cause interference in Summer's case as if hundreds of people aren't looking at them knowing that they're lying, because there's still that crowd that totally supports them and their narrative that differs from what Ellie has told us. And it's not funny. It's not a game. This is a real child's life that we're talking about. Yes, we take the time to smile and crack a joke here and there because we're only human. But at the end of the day, and every day when I wake up, this is very serious. Summer could be hurting, sad, scared, God only knows what, if she was abducted, like Don and Candace and Grandma all says she was, and like all of their supporters claim to think Summer was abducted, kidnapped, whatever you want to call it, taken. Don and Candace are still able to drink and get high on a daily basis as if nothing has changed without it weighing on them enough to stop for any of their kids. In my opinion, that's how it seems. For Summer, for their boys, or any of their other children, they won't do it. Summer going missing was not a wake-up call for Don and Candace, in my opinion. They just kept living their lives like nothing happened. And it should have been a wake-up call to them if they're innocent. Probably if they're guilty too. They seem to still be living their lives on their own terms, not on the terms that have been laid out to them by a judge that says what they need to do to get their children back. Not by the terms that would reveal where Summer is or what happened to her. That would involve the whole truth. And Candace will not tell us. Don won't tell us. Grandma won't tell us. They at some points even seem to be living their best lives without any of their children, despite what they say. I'm not saying they don't deserve to let loose once in a while, but when your daughter, who was only 5 at the time of her disappearance, is missing, you lost all 3 of your sons a month later. You've already lost your first set of children, and I'm not even hating on them for that. I'm not hating on people that lose custody of their children at all. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm hating on and what it's about. It's how it's affecting them that I'm talking about. I'm hating on the way they aren't doing anything to make it better for their kids or to make it right for anybody. They haven't learned a damn thing from this, in my opinion. And I think that's largely due to the support they receive from people that know they're full of shit, but they follow the creator that supports them. And that gives them a platform, both of them, to push their narrative. Daisy, for example, is giving both Don and Candace a platform to speak their minds, say whatever they want, talk about how they like their coffee, and just supports it. Never asks any important, pertinent questions. She supports Candace pulling a weapon on a CPS worker because she says that was Candace protecting her children, and that means that she loves them. What Candace says really happened, by the way, was Andrew, I think, or someone, it was someone in the home, left their gun sitting there by the front door somewhere in plain sight, and when the CPS worker came in the door, there it was, and it must have been noted somewhere for anyone to know about it or for it to be a story at all, so it must have been a big deal. But I don't know what more there really is to it than that, but I wouldn't even be surprised if Candace did do something like that and didn't even remember that she did it because she was too messed up or something. Who knows? Some people think Candace drinking and using drugs has nothing to do with Summer's case, and I should quit talking about it, and they could care less, but I beg to differ on that respectfully. I think that likely plays a huge role in Summer's disappearance. And I don't care if anybody drinks or does drugs, if that's really what they want to do, but they have no business having children or even one child, no matter how old they are, in their home with them in that case. If they're drinking heavily enough that they talk the way Candace talks when we hear her drunk, or look the way Candace looks when we see her all messed up in videos from before Summer even went missing and from after when she was around her kids and after she lost them, and she's just as messed up as she was then, and she is now. She didn't get this way overnight. But this is about Summer. It's not about Don, and it's not about Candace. But unfortunately, and I really do hate to say this, but Don and Candace happen to be Summer's parents and also happen to be suspects in her disappearance still after 2 years. That doesn't make them guilty. It makes them suspicious of being guilty per law enforcement, though. So I would be careful taking their word for gold and spreading it around the community, presenting it that way. Believing every word they say, pushing their narrative. That's a very stupid move. And I'm not sorry. It's very ignorant and stupid. And I'm saying this because I care about Summer. You never take a suspect's word for it in any crime. That's going against the victim, essentially. I mean, potentially, and you shouldn't do it. Especially one of this nature involving a child that is only 5, now 7, that is missing, and nobody knows what happened to her. And if they do, which it truly seems that they do, they're not saying a damn word because they know they're screwed if they do. If they're guilty, they need to accept that. Accept they messed up so they can start to at least pay for what they did and maybe learn something from it in this lifetime for their own sake, to save their own souls. And most importantly, so Summer can have her justice and finally be found. And there can be closure to this, and Summer can be at peace one way or another, because that is what this is all about. So don't get it twisted. Don and Candace are not living their life on the terms of what any of their children need. That says so much to me that it baffles me that so many people do not see it, because they're blinded by their favorite creator's opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. And I don't think there is any reason why we shouldn't be able to coexist peacefully while talking and thinking on 2 different ends of the spectrum on this matter of whether Don and Candace, or one or the other, is innocent or guilty. Because what really matters is there's time missing from the timeline on June 15th, 2021, the day Summer was reported missing. And with that, we could probably find Summer. So one of them needs to speak up and say whatever they've been withholding, because it's so clearly obvious that at the very least, Candace is withholding information, and I don't believe for a second that Grandma doesn't know, that Don doesn't know. I could be wrong, yeah. But if I am one of thousands, and then what is it? What's the right answer then to the missing time? You believe Candace? Well, then you believe something that makes no sense. You think I'm wrong? Well, then you tell me. Really, honestly, please. We should still be able to work together to provide Summer with something that's an asset to her and not a liability. It's sad to me that her parents can't do that. And we're just talking here. These are just my thoughts and opinions. Some disagree. Some think I'm focusing entirely too much on Don and Candace because I'm viewing Don and Candace for what they are. In Summer's case, they're suspects. I would talk more about Summer if we knew more about her, but her parents don't have much to say or show for Summer. So there's that too. And if this were any other case, and there was suspects named, or a reference made to the family being suspects, I would talk about them too. You who support Don and Candace and disagree with most or all of my opinions on Don and Candace, don't think that they are guilty of anything to do with Summer being missing, probably. I think they're guilty of many things. I think they're guilty of Summer's disappearance in one way or another, yes. I also think they're guilty of other things prior to Summer's disappearance as well. Things that may have caused any of the children to go missing at many other points in time, potentially. But it happened June 15th, 2021 with Summer. I think in that home, on that property, in the hands of Don and Candace, it was inevitable that something tragic was going to happen on that hill. It's really unfortunate that it was one of the children, being tiny, innocent little Summer. And I think if, say, for example, on June 15th, Robin Lane would have been babysitting, Summer probably wouldn't have gone missing on June 15th, 2021. But at some point, something terrible was bound to happen, in my opinion, if there was the level of abuse and neglect in the home that I imagine that there was, which there should never be any level of at all in any home anywhere ever. But judging off everything we have seen and heard and all the things we know to be true, including the order of protection 8 months prior to Summer being missing, the lack of self-control I've observed between Don and Candace, paired with Don's anger and Candace's incoherence, is nothing more than a recipe for disaster. And it hurts my heart that their children had to grow up in that house with Don and Candace. If they acted anything like they act on their lives, or like I've heard people say they act, or like we've seen in maybe like a TikTok Candace seemed pretty proud of, that she was nodding out in. I hope Don wasn't abusing Candace like Jose says he was, and right in front of the kids. I hope neither of them got this inebriated so regularly, especially around their children. But I don't think people get like that overnight. Not because they have a missing child. If you have a child missing and you just immediately choose to get blitzed, obliterated, blackout, drunk, and high every day to deal with it, that's really selfish. That's not okay. And if someone was really your friend, they would tell you that. It's okay to tell somebody that what they're doing is not okay if you can clearly see that it's having a negative effect on their children. You don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be an asshole. You can still be kind to somebody by telling them, hey, you're effing up. You need to do better. If someone was really your friend, they would care about your missing daughter being found and getting justice for whatever has happened to her, because she obviously didn't just get lost playing outside, in my opinion. Just my thoughts. Summer was said to have went missing in the early afternoon, though, and that's a fact. That was said by law enforcement. This is likely due to a video they've seen of Summer verifying her proof of life for June 15th. They also do say, though, that Summer was last seen by a sibling walking away from her home. So Summer was last seen walking away from her home by a sibling in the early afternoon of June 15th, 2021. That's what I get if I put those two statements together. So Summer would have last been seen walking away from her home after the 3:09 p.m. milk jug video that was taken of Summer. If it was really taken on June 15th. So Summer would have last been seen. Did I say after? I meant to say before. Because think about it. If Summer was last seen in the early afternoon and she was last seen walking away from her home by one of her siblings, then she would have been last seen walking away from her home in the early afternoon by one of her brothers. So the milk jug video being at 3:09 p.m. would put that out of that early afternoon time frame. That would totally be in the middle of the afternoon. That's not early afternoon. But if they're considering it early afternoon, then fine, whatever. It still isn't 6 p.m. But that would mean the milk jug video was taken after Summer's brothers saw her walking away from her home. Early afternoon is definitely not between 6 and 6:30 at night. That's dinner time for me, or even just past dinner time on some nights. That's not early afternoon. There's a reason law enforcement never says Summer went missing around 6 or 6:30 p.m., even though it says that on her missing flyer. But when Lawson is asked by a reporter at a presser when did Summer actually go missing, Lawson says that time varies because they were searching for Summer themselves. But Ellie says Summer was last seen in the early afternoon, so obviously that they know for sure because they saw it with their own eyes, probably on camera, I'm assuming, somewhere at some point in the early afternoon, probably in the noon or 1 o'clock hour, and also have a statement from a brother or brothers that they last saw Summer walking away from their home. Maybe they didn't know exactly what time it was. Maybe they did. They were told they were old enough to tell time at that point. They weren't toddlers. I mean, they could have known that it was the early afternoon and said it was around 12 or around 1 or something like that, unless it was right before the milk jug video happened and they knew it was around 2:30, 3 o'clock maybe, and they told them that. I mean, they're old enough to tell time. That doesn't mean they were paying attention to the time. They might really have not known. They might not have been paying attention. TBI and Hawkins County obviously don't find Don and Candace's story credible because they never tell it. Don and Candace and law enforcement tell two different stories of June 15th, 2021. They reference two different times of the day when Summer was last seen. The way Summer was last seen is different. Where Summer was last seen is different. And even say why Summer is missing is likely not why Don and Candace say she is missing, which is abduction. And they say they have no evidence of that. Everything about Summer's disappearance is different. The who, what, where, when, and why, and even the how. They all conflict with law enforcement in some way with what Don and Candace say. I believe law enforcement over Don and Candace. I think they would tell us what Don and Candace have told us if they thought their story was credible. And if they're going to lie about little things like that, what else are they lying about? If they're going to lie about things that the police are saying and lie about the timeline and lie about the dog trail or the driveway or saying about the 4:30 time frame of the scream, what Candace says she was doing at that time is like she says she was doing like a dozen different things at that same time. So what is it? Like, why lie about so many different things? Because innocent people that have a missing child don't just come on YouTube for the hell of it and get drunk and messed up and lie about shit. And if they do, they need to sit the fuck down. They don't even share the milk jug video or any surveillance of Summer from the day she went missing. Law enforcement doesn't. They won't name suspects specifically, but they do confirm the family as suspects, although they don't name them by name. But when asked if the family is suspects and the law says they are, that means they are. The law knows Don and Candace are watching and listening to everything. They know that. And I sincerely hope that they are paying attention to everything and everybody on here, because the longer this goes on, the more I feel like there's more and more people involved in Summer's disappearance in one way or another than just Don and Candace and Grandma. I don't know what Grandma knows. I mean, nobody knows what anyone knows, but I swear Grandma knows something. I just sense it. Especially after her March 1st, I think it was March 1st, 2022, interview with WJHL outside on the property. I think it was like her one and only news appearance in regards to Summer. Yeah, that's set in stone how I felt about Grandma. I could be totally wrong about her, but I know Grandma sure doesn't like Don, and she wanted to protect Candace. Grandma also changed the narrative to add a nap, though. And if it really was her that was texting Emma from Crime Stories Obsessed in the very beginning, and she told her Candace came up from the basement after starting to search for Summer when she first noticed her missing, and she was in a hysterical cry right away, immediately, from coming out the basement door, why wouldn't Candace look outside first before hysterically crying? Somebody explain that to me. Did she know someone had already been trying to kidnap Summer and she just knew they got her that day? Why would it mean Summer is completely missing just because she wasn't in the basement? Wouldn't you just assume she was outside then? You can't seriously tell me it's the first time that Summer ever went outside and wandered away and had to be found by somebody because nobody knew where she was. That probably happened all the time. It's a huge property out in the middle of nowhere. I probably would have done the same thing when I was a little girl if I lived there. The thing that really grinds my gears, though, is that Don and Candace go with a narrative that is different from what law enforcement has told us. That's interference. And another thing about the basement that just crossed my mind, unless they trapped Summer in the basement and she knew she was not allowed to leave that basement or she was in big trouble and they were punishing her or something along those lines to where she was confined to that basement and she escaped and ran off. Maybe that's the reason why Candace would be in a hysterical cry when she came up, because she was like, oh crap, she got away. I'm sorry, and I hate to say it because I've never heard anybody say it and it sounds so terrible, but it literally just crossed my mind because I'm just trying to make it make sense. And unfortunately, my mind goes there because that's the way Don and Candace have presented themselves this whole time. Don and Candace go with a narrative that is different from what law enforcement has told us, which is interference, and Don emphasizes on things that are different from what law enforcement says, and I want to know why. Why does Don say the two key things we need to remember are that, number one, Summer went down to the basement and was last seen by her brothers going down there, and number two, that Summer's scent was tracked down the dog trail to Ben Hill, but law enforcement says Summer was last seen walking away from her home by a sibling, and that Summer's scent was tracked down the driveway to the road where the dog ended up losing Summer's scent. Don says that's where Summer was put into a car and driven away. Don also says Jody heard a scream that sounded muffled, which must have been the kidnapper covering Summer's mouth. He really drives that on the news. I think it's WJHL's sister station or something. WVLT is what I think it is. I'm pretty sure. He's talking, she's like a real pretty, real thin, dark-skinned woman with dark hair. I think she's got her hair down, I'm pretty sure. But they're walking down the dog trail. Don's walking her down the dog trail. And he's playing out what he says he thinks happened to Summer. And that Summer was trying to scream, but her mouth was covered by the abductor because the scream was a real funny, muffled kind of scream. Now, Jody said she heard that scream around 4:30, 4:42. She sounded pretty sure about that. Are you still pretty sure about that, Jody? Don is saying Summer was abducted around 4:30? Okay. He must not have been paying attention. Well, that's funny because Fred says his buddy, and I think that was Chad Arnold, saw Candace right around that same time, around 4:30, allegedly, passing by Fred's house back in the holler, which is where Candace says she went looking for Summer. And Candace also says she didn't hear Summer scream because she was looking for Summer. Candace changes that statement a couple times and even tells Ernie Shell there was no scream, dude. So was there a scream? Where's Summer? Don and Candace weren't at any of the press conferences. Dawn and Candace haven't been out begging people to help them find their daughter. Candace hid her face for 2 weeks after Summer went missing. Now, I'll give it to Don. He puts on a good facade, and he has a lot of people fooled, in my opinion. Don's stories of Summer with the candy and the twirling and coming to the bed with big crocodile tears and sleeping with her every single night for 5 years. That's all disingenuous bullshit, in my opinion. He doesn't even sound like Don Wells when he says any of those things. His whole voice changes. I think Don is only here to drive a narrative and make himself look innocent and to get what he can from it while he's here. To try to make people look away from the direction of Summer because, in my opinion, he knows where she is. Don deflects all the time, so does Candace. They are literally spreading misinformation in Summer's case. Not in a way that any YouTube creator ever could, because they're Summer's parents, and they're also suspects in her disappearance for over 2 years now. So their haters and their supporters and everybody that's indifferent is going to listen to what they have to say if they're paying attention to the case. So yeah, of course, we're going to talk about them. I think if someone actually came up on that hill and abducted Summer, it was in the early afternoon, because I don't think they could have gotten away with it if it would have been when Don and Candace says it was. It doesn't make sense. I know crazy things happen all the time, and I know it happens in the city, it happens in the country, like Grandma says when she says that on the news, and she says she thinks Summer was abducted. But it doesn't make sense. If Summer was abducted and Don and Candace has nothing to do with it, and they have no idea what happened, yet they know she was abducted, it had to have happened way before Candace says it did. Why would she lie about that? I can't get over that. She just didn't want anyone to know she wasn't watching Summer because of whatever she was doing instead. I don't know. That doesn't seem like a good enough reason to withhold information when you think your daughter was just kidnapped. If it's not an abduction, then what happened? Ronnie Lawson says there's nothing pointing to foul play aside from the fact that Summer walked away from her home and hasn't been seen since. So is he saying there's something foul about that? Maybe that it's not true? CPS is involved in Summer's case. Her case with CPS bleeds over into the investigation into her disappearance. Dawn and Candace have not been cleared. LE has not come out and said the family is not the center of our investigation. They haven't got any evidence of an abduction. None. Not even the fact that her parents demand she was abducted. There's so many reasons I can think of not to support Dawn and Candace, definitely not to fund them or support their narrative that goes against what LE says, because in my eyes, by doing so is doing a disservice to the victim, Summer, and to her brothers that love her and miss her and care about her more than anybody. And I don't want to start drama, but I have to say this. Daisy, how dare you defend Don sexually assaulting his sisters? How fucking dare you? Do you think it's okay for Don and Candace to act the way they do because your daddy ran around shooting your house up when you was little? So that means, hey, my dad was crazy. It's okay that Summer's parents are too. Mine was. No, that's not how this works. And I don't really give a shit that Daisy has probably 10 times the subs and 1,000 times the views that I do. I don't care. I want people to hear what I have to say, yeah, and see the videos I make, because I want more people to know and hear about Summer and see her face, and the people that already have to keep talking about her. Because I'll tell you all right now, nobody is going to bully me into stopping talking about Summer. And don't let him do it to you either. I heard Brooks at Crime Lines and Lies say that, and I was like, dude, right on. You can make fun of me. You can hate on me. You can make fun of my content. You can say whatever you want about me. I really don't care. I'm not here for support for myself. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here for fun, for recognition, none of that. I'm not even hating on anyone that is. And I'm sorry for the foul language. I really am. No kids should be listening to this. Sometimes it just slips out. Anyways, if they are, please stop them. Because I'm feeling very passionate right now. And, sometimes I get a little bit manic and I go on a rant like this, but here it is. I'm here for Summer Moon Utah Wells. I stick up for her to be a voice for her because I can see the sadness in her eyes. I can see how skinny she got. I can see the neglect. I can see the abuse from 400 miles away. And I'm not sorry because Summer matters more. Summer has 3 brothers out there that she grew up with that know her and love her and miss her and probably want more than anything to either know what happened to her or to be able to forget it. But I guarantee you they don't want to forget her memory. I guarantee you they want her to be found more than any of us do, more than Don and Candace do, probably more than anybody in the world. They are owed so much. And I don't want to talk about the boys. I really don't, actually. I just want to say that I doubt anybody wants Summer found more than them. They were probably Summer's everything. 1 second, I'm going to grab a drink. So, Candace said she doesn't walk or run anywhere. Okay. Now, when you very first hear about this case and you listen to the dispatch call, you're going to think, what? When you hear Candace be like, I don't walk or run anywhere. And you're like, wait, but the dispatch call. Okay, well, my question is, did Don tell the dispatch on June 15th that Candace went for a walk to her mom's at first? The woman on dispatch says the mother had went for a walk. And when she came home, they couldn't find her. So that must have been what Don said. She went for a walk. And they say she's been yelling for her for about 10 minutes now. Then when the mother came back, she couldn't find her. She says the male on the line repeats the information back to the female and to make sure that he got it right. And then he says, did you say when you got the original call, the mother had went for a walk and when she came back, the daughter was gone? And the woman says 10-4. That's what the father called and advised. The female on dispatch says, be sure to check the house and camper, even if they said they already have. She might be saying again instead of camper, but to me it really sounds like camper. Listen, I'll play it. Again, okay, this is Red Rum Media, so if you go over there to her page, you'll find this and a bunch of other content too.
You to be sure, check the house, camper, even if they said they've already had. Sure, check the house, camper, even if they said they've already had.
Yeah, boy. Search and rescue with Churchill Rescue Squad. Staging area is going to be at Mount Carmel Baptist Church on Beach Creek. Hawkins County Rescue Squad, all members, mutual aid requests from Churchill Rescue on a search and rescue. Staging area is going to be at Mount Carmel Baptist Church on Beach Creek. Also requesting respond with six-wheeler and command trailer.
So didn't it kind of sound like she said camper? How would they know to check the camper that there is even a camper to check? Because Dawn might have said Candace walked over to her mom's camper. Or are they just that familiar with the property? They probably are. Or did Dawn just say, Candace went over to grandma's camper or her mom's camper, and also that Candace went for a walk and Summer was missing, and when Candace came back, Summer was gone. Maybe dispatch just pieced it together for police because they couldn't really understand what Don was saying. Maybe he was in a panic, and he can be really bad with words. So maybe they did take Don saying Candace walked over to grandma's camper as Candace went for a walk. And then that was misconstrued for a run. Either way, it stands out to me that they were notified to tell the initial searchers to check the house and camper, even if they said they already have, because it seems like Don and Candace weren't trusted from the beginning for them to make it a point to say that. Is that not standard protocol to check inside the house and any other buildings on the property when you get a report of a missing child or any missing person? Why should they have to clarify that? Obviously, you look in the house and the camper. But Hawkins County said, no, make sure you do it. Even if they tell you they already did, you make sure you do it again. They must have thought Don and Candace were trying to hide something, in my opinion, from the get-go. There's a reason the 911 calls have not been released. The suspects are also the ones that allegedly called 911. Maybe they know Don and Candace were lying in the 911 calls and they don't want to put it out because it's misinformation, on top of it being potential evidence. That's really freaking sad to think about. Summer's parents. Where is the missing time? And what was Candace really doing around 3:30, 4:30, 5:30? We know she was potentially dropping Hunter off allegedly around 2:30, and we know what Candace has told us happened next. The milk jug video, the jumping right up and going in to help with groceries, and the planting of the cactus, washing of the hands, the peppermint, all the detail of that possible hour-long frame of time. What else? Laundry? Okay, so when did that happen? That must have been right after the cactus planting then, right? Oh, but wait. That's when Candace went over to fix Grandma's knee brace and came back. And Summer was missing 2 to 5 minutes later. So then it must have happened as she was also sorting groceries and putting groceries away. Then she must have done a whole bunch of laundry before going out to see Grandma, standing there looking so serious about the repotting that needed done with all the cactus. Then they did the cactus plants, and all of that took up till 6 p.m. Well, I would say the majority of that time was probably spent doing laundry then, since it takes like a good hour to run a quick wash and dry cycle, and you're lucky if you're dry after 1 hour of including wash time. How do you forget that? How do you think you just were putting groceries away with Grandma and the kids and saw Grandma standing outside her camper staring at the cactus with her aching knee, and she was just so tired, she needed her meds, she needed her nap, but she was just standing there while Candace did all this laundry? What? Why would Grandma be getting up and down and coming outside thinking about repotting a damn cactus when she didn't even pick the weeds? If she needed a nap that bad and she was in that much pain, she wouldn't have been standing out there worrying about the cactus and waiting on Candace this whole time to do all this laundry or whatever else she said she did. So the cactus planting must have happened right away. Well, then none of that makes sense. And not to mention her hurting knee. So that leads me to believe Candace didn't do laundry before going to Grandma's camper to help her with her knee brace. And if she did, it didn't take up more than a few minutes because I don't think Grandma, like I said, would want to be kept waiting for that long. So when did the laundry happen? Candace at one point said she didn't hear the scream because she was inside with the TV turned up. So was that after the planting flowers? So wait, then when did Summer come back inside to see her brothers? Because that's when Candace says she went to help Grandma with her brace, and 2 minutes later she came back and Summer was missing. So Candace didn't hear the scream around 4:30 that Jody says that she and her children heard because she was inside watching TV while Summer was missing? Okay, what else? Well, another time, she says she didn't hear it because she was out searching for Summer. So she waited how long to call Don and to call 911? How long? Because it doesn't make sense. It probably sounded sketchy right off the bat to law enforcement. Then whatever they called and said to when they called 911. I mean, it seems pretty black and white to me that law enforcement didn't trust Don and Candace from the word go, in my opinion. I think it seems like law enforcement is lacking much real evidence, but they're probably lacking credible leads too. They were overloaded with non-credible tips to follow up on. They didn't have anything more than they did on June 15th, like way into the investigation, and we don't even know if they have any more than they've had then. Now. We know that after they received whatever information they did overnight on June 15th, which led them to issue the Amber Alert that went out the next morning, they got new information then. Have they gotten any new information since? God, I hope so. Was any of it credible? Maybe. Did it help them find Summer? Not yet. I don't really know if they're even getting leads anymore, to be honest. And like maybe a couple here and there, but by judging on the way they talked recently around the 2-year mark, they aren't getting much. But at the end of the day, they obviously don't have enough to arrest Don or Candace with anything related to Summer at all yet, or if they do, there's a reason that they're not. Like the Dylan Redwine case, which took 5 years. And most importantly, they still do not have Summer. That's not to say they don't have a case building. Things do take time, unfortunately. And we know, look at Classic and Sincere. There can be a prosecution without a body, if that's the case for Summer, which I pray it's not, but we don't know that. We know that Summer was in imminent danger of bodily harm or death within 24 hours of going missing. They were asking people to search in places a pad of paper could fit, and the law thinks Summer is close by. So to me, yeah, it does sound very grim. If Summer is alive, it still sounds very grim. Every second is still more and more imminent that Summer is found, and will continue to be that way until she is rescued or recovered. I pray for a rescue. I think we pretty much all do. But at the same time, I know in the back of my mind that there's a pretty big chance that might not ever happen. But one day, Summer will be found. Whether it's in our lifetime, maybe it will be tomorrow, but eventually, Summer will be found. Don told dispatch that Candace was hollering for Summer and that she was missing for about 10 minutes. So how does this all add up? Candace didn't look for Summer downstairs, upstairs, outside, and out in the property away from the house as she was hollering for her this whole time, looking, all in 10 minutes. It makes sense if you think that Candace already knew there was someone fixing to take Summer, but who would that be? Would law enforcement know that if they got all their phones? The phone that was thrown in the ocean? One of the phones of the 14 that came down from New York? I'm just thinking of things off the top of my head here. I'm not throwing shade. These are just things that are coming to me, trying to use logic and make things make sense. If they really got all the phones, the one that Candace showed Chris McDonough that I forgot to turn it in. Yeah, I'll get to it. Like it's not a top priority. Did they get that phone? Because so far this makes as much sense as Candace being able to remember every little detail of the day on June 15th, right up until around that time when their phones were deleted. Right around that time, there's rumors of people seeing Candace off her property when Candace says she was there the whole time. Right up until around the time Ronnie Lawson is talking about that is missing from her timeline. She suddenly has a lapse in memory for hours. And Grandma was taking a nap during that time, so she certainly couldn't know anything, right? Who does Grandma know? What does she think? Like, I know she thinks Summer was abducted, but who does she think did it, and how does she think they could have pulled it off? You're telling me only 10 minutes went by, and they didn't check outwards of the very front of the yard before calling 911? That's weird. Why? Did Candace even look out front? How far did she look before she called Dawn? Candace says she went down into the basement when she initially hollered for Summer after asking the boys where's Summer. When she came back in from the camper, allegedly, she got no answer, according to Candace's words. She searched under every blanket, under the mattresses, and everywhere she could possibly look, and Summer was just nowhere. She runs outside and begins looking for Summer. If Summer was just inside that house only 2 to 5 minutes prior to Candace last seeing her, she couldn't have got that far, especially being barefoot and not having anything in her stomach for the whole day. Being 5 years old and barefoot. Nothing to eat all day. Hot car ride all the way home in a tracksuit on an 80-degree day. She probably couldn't have got that far. None of the neighbors say that they saw her. They all seemed to be outside, though, not all of them, but a few. There were footprints allegedly found, too, on neighboring properties close by, but not within reasonable walking distance for a barefoot 5-year-old. One of them was like around a mile away, and one was 0.4 miles away, if I'm remembering correctly, and they were never verified by law enforcement. Publicly, like, law enforcement never came out and was like, yep, we found footprints. Not anywhere that I've seen. Yeah, June 26th. That June 26th is when the TBI asked for the public's assistance in locating a potential witness in the disappearance of Summer Wells. TBI said it received information through a tip that a Toyota truck was seen in the area of Beach Creek Road and Ben Hill Road in the late afternoon to early evening on Monday, June 14th or Tuesday, June 15th. The truck is described as possibly being a 1998 to 2000s maroon or red Toyota Tacoma with the full bed ladder rack along with white buckets in the truck bed. And I really do appreciate everybody being here. Everybody has the right to their own opinion, and I mean no disrespect to anybody when I have a differing one than you. It's about Summer, the victim. Always remember that. We love you, Summer, and we will never stop fighting for you to keep your name out there, to try whatever we can do to at least help your case from going cold. And again, don't fund suspects. It's not smart. Don't support suspects just because a creator you like is supporting suspects. And that's just my opinion. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. And you can hang out around here. I don't care. Everybody has the right to their opinion and to go wherever they want and do whatever they want. That's fine. But I just don't think it's smart. And it goes against Summer, in my opinion. Just keep that in mind. All right. I hope everybody has a nice day. Love you, Summer. 1-800-TBI fine. No Summer, no peace.
Sorry if you hear background noise in a second here. I just wanted to say thank you, Nature Lover, for the gifted memberships, and Angel Talks Too Fast, I'll Be Frank, Lisa K. Did I miss anybody that got a membership? If I did, I'm so sorry. All the new members that were gifted by Nature Lover, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here for Summer. Thank you for sticking up for Summer, the victim. And thank you for not supporting the suspects. I hope everybody has a nice day. Yes, please do sub to Nature Lover. Thank you, List. She's great. I love Nature Lover. She's definitely Summer's army. Hair Curlers in Crime is another good one too. Sub up to her. I dropped a lot of links in chat today. Birdie's Crime Chat has a good channel too. All right. Just Rosie, good to see you. I haven't seen you in forever, hon. Candalee, Kasha's, Wandering Hearts, Crime Creepy, Wood Fairy, K Crochet, Beverly. Thank you all so much for being here. I really do appreciate you. Millie RN. Find Summer's Truth. Cat's Eye. Probably missing tons of people. All right. I love you guys. Have a nice day. Find Summer Wells, Justice for Summer. No Summer, no peace.